السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا وسهلا بكم في محاضرة جديدة من برنامج الأستاذ الزائر في جامعة البصرة. هذا اليوم محاضرة للأستاذ المساعد الدكتور سعيد مالك من جامعة فردوسي مشهد في النظام الاقتصادي. Welcome again. This is Mr. Kian, the manager of IT and Communication Center, speaking to you. Dr. Saeed, thank you very much. And on behalf of our Chancellor, the Professor Dr. Shahin Hamadi, and the team of the Visiting Professor Program, I would like to introduce our deep thanks to you for participating in this program and for your lecture that you will share with us. Thank you very much. And you can start your lecture now, please.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Good morning to you all. Welcome to my presentation. At first, I should express my great enthusiasm for participating in this series of presentation as a collaboration between the two prestigious universities in the Middle East, the Firdaus University of Mashhad and the University of Basrah. I hope this series of presentation as a collaboration can be beneficial for all the academicians in two universities, for students, for scholars, and all the members in two universities. Thank you. Can you see my slides?
Yeah.
ما تجي للدرس راح.
Yeah, it's clear, doctor.
Okay. Shall I start?
Yeah, please.
Yes, please.
Okay. The title of my presentation is An Introduction to Economic Systems. In this presentation, I'm going to present the difference between the different economic systems all over the world. But at first, I need to know about your background. I need to know about the background of students in this room, and I want to know if they studied in economic before. I can start and I can ask them in middle of my presentation, but the background of economic will be very beneficial for participants in this presentation. Let's start. The outline of my lecture includes 5 parts. In part 1, I will start with the definition of economy because it is very important to enter to the topic. The second part explores some important economic concept, and after that we will go into the topic classification of economic systems according to types of decision making and classification of economic systems according to ownership of capital goods. After that, we will clarify the types of economic systems in some important countries in the world. So let's start with part 1. In part 1, let me go to a slideshow. Okay, what is economy? Economy actually have many different definitions, but one simple definition of economy is as follows. An economy begins with the desire of the people in the society for material goods and services. In this definition, there are 2 important points. The first point is desire, and the second is materials. Here we focus on desire, not needs. You know, that desire is what people wish to have, people want to have. But needs means people things that people actually do have at the moment. Desire is is important than need, is more important than needs. And here we concentrate on material goods and material desires to goods and services. By material, we mean something that people need to their living. For example, food, shelter, actually the clothes, medical service, education service, and so on. And we don't concentrate on psychological desire. For example, we don't speak about love, hate. We don't speak about, for example, respect, something like this. Just we concentrate in the definition on material, not psychological goods. If you concentrate on this definition, there are some important concepts that we should explore here. The main question here is that for which kinds of people we want to conceptualize the theory of economics, for which kinds of persons, for which kinds of individuals. Economists usually think as a human being as an economic man or homo economicus. Homo economicus is a Greek word. It comes from Greece. It is an ancient word. Economic man or homo economicus have three important characteristics. Actually, we assume three aspects for these types of individuals. The first one is insatiable persons. But what we mean by insatiable? Insatiable means wanting more and more. For example, imagine that you need to buy a car. You don't have a car at the moment and you want to buy a car. As a student, you should finish your study. You should enter the job market and find a job, and after that you earn money and buy a car. After buying a car and driving with that car, you may feel that this car isn't suitable for you, and you need a more comfortable car, a more prestigious car, and so on. So you should try to earn more and more and buy a new car, a better car, and sell the first one. But this procedure is never ending. You may buy the second car and drive with it. After a while, you may think that it isn't comfortable, and you need a new one. All the people is like this. And no matter how many goods and services we have, no matter how much money we have, we still need more and more. So insatiable means wanting more and more, never ending. The second characteristics of individuals, or the second characteristics of economic man as a topic of economics is rationality. Persons are rational. What's the meaning of rational persons? Here, the rationality means rationality means that the capability of persons to choose the best one. I desire what I desire for my own reason. You desire what you desire for your own reason. And the desires of persons aren't to be questioned. We don't have the right to ask about persons' desire because they can choose the best one for themselves. And they choose something for themselves because they think that it is better for them. And finally, the third characteristics of economic man is maximizer. Economic man is maximizer means all the persons usually try to find the better one. Actually, as a consumer, we try to maximize our satisfaction of goods and services. Or as a producer, as a company manager, we try to maximize our benefit. We consider our limitation and maximize our goals considering our limitation. For example, a consumer try to maximize his or her satisfaction, taking into account their budget constraints. And a company manager do like this. So to sum up, we have three characteristics: insatiable, rational, and maximizer. An economic man has these three characteristics. But on the other hand, to satisfy all of our desires, we need to produce goods and services. We need to provide services. And we have to participate in socially production. We should engage in production. But production needs some kinds of factors of production. You know that to produce goods and services, we need raw materials and other things. The first important factors of production is natural resources. Usually nature provides us natural resources like food, like actually mineral, like water of rivers, actually the other things, woods and so on. And we use all of them to produce goods and services. But you know that the natural resources should be changed, and we should do something with them to produce goods and services. For example, we should harvest fruit. We should dig mineral and to extract oil or to extract coal or something like this. It means that some kinds of contribution is needed to work with natural resources, and this is the labor or labor force. So to produce goods and services, we need natural resource and labor. And one other important thing is capital goods. Capital goods is something that is produced with natural resources, but help us to produce more and more in future. For example, imagine a hammer that is used in production. A hammer is produced by wood and iron, and both of them are some types of natural resources. We produce hammer not to consume it, but to produce with it. And finally, the other source of production is entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is a person, is a very smart and also risk-taking or risk-bearing person. Entrepreneur recognize the society's desire and try to bring all the factors of production together to produce goods or provide services. Why we say that? Why entrepreneurs are risk bearing? Because production is risky. Entrepreneur may recognize the society's desires wrongly, and he may fail. Or sometimes he recognizes it correctly, but produce something inefficiently. So entrepreneur may fail, and it is risky for entrepreneurs. So entrepreneur should be a person who can bear risk. To this point, we know that we confront with economic demands in a society, and on the other hand, we should produce goods and services with factors of production. But something that is very important here is that we have limitation. There are a limited amount of factors of production in the society, in the in our country, in the world. There are limited amount of natural resources, limited amount of labor force, capital goods, and entrepreneur and other things. But on the other hand, we faced with insatiable economic demands who wants more and more. And this procedure is never ending. So if we want to compare them with each other, we will confront with maybe an unbalanced situation in which there are a high amount of desires and limit, actually capacity of societies to produce. The amount of factors of production that we have determines the amount of goods and services that we can produce. So in this situation, we have an important concept that is scarcity. We will confront with scarcity. But what is scarcity? The problem of scarcity forces all the societies to think about three important questions. What to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. This question comes when we confront with the scarcity. Without any kinds of scarcity, this question don't emerge at all. For example, in heaven, we don't need to answer to this question, because in heaven, we thought as a Muslims that there isn't any kinds of scarcity in heaven. But let me clarify these questions. As a society, when we want to produce one types of goods, for example, when we want to produce automobiles in our country, we should know that we confront with a limited amount of factors of production. So producing automobiles actually means that not producing other goods, because we should spend some parts of our factors of production to produce it, and we should sacrifice other types of production. And this means the opportunity cost. We should pay opportunity cost when we decide to choose one goods or service. When we decide to produce, for example, tank, we should sacrifice automobile. When we decide to produce, for example, agricultural product, we should sacrifice other types of product. And this means the opportunity cost. The other question is how to produce. How to produce actually is the question about technology. Let me come back and see you. Have you here? So sorry, can you hear me now at the moment? I should check the connection all the time. Okay. Professor Kian, can you hear me?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, very good. Very good. I just want to check it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. How to produce is the, let me ask you how to produce. What means how to produce? What is technology? Can you answer me? Sorry, I want to ask you to participate in this debate. Is there anyone who want to be volunteer to answer me?
Sorry again, please.
Okay. I ask you what is the technology? What means technology? Technology usually is the answer to the second question. By which kinds of technology we want to produce goods and services. Actually, the second question, how to produce, is the problem of choosing technology.
Now the sounds are coming, so we don't hear you before that, please.
Pardon me?
We can't hear you, please.
Okay. And what about others?
Yeah, please.
Professor Tamami, can you hear me at the moment?
That's okay now.
No problem. As I told you, we have three important questions. The first question was what to produce, and I clarify it for you. The second one is how to produce. How to produce is the way that we combine factors of production. For example, imagine that you are a farmer. As a farmer, you should choose to actually acquire technology. You may select a technology less worker and more capital good. In the first example, you use the labor intensive technology, and in the second one you use the capital intensive, because you use technology, capital intensive technology, energy intensive technology, especially for countries like Iran, Iraq, actually mineral intensive technology, and so on. It is the problem of how to produce. And finally, there is an important other question: for whom to produce? Who can answer this question? For whom to produce? What's the meaning of this question? Let me ask you. For example, ask Raja. Raja, please turn on your microphone. Is it possible for you to turn on your microphone?
Sorry. Meaning of what, please?
Raja, I ask you about the third question. You can see the third question here. For whom to produce? Imagine that we produce some goods and services. How can we distribute these goods among people?
مستشفى ميلاد بصفها العلاج بمستشفى ميلاد مجاني. للجرانين حكومة.
So your presentation stopped.
Okay, not
الجامعة. هاي محمد هو اي صح.
I just asked you a question. Okay, let me start. Let me ask another one. Shukar Jasim. Can you answer me?
Doctor, please, your presentation stopped, so the students cannot see the question to answer.
Okay, here. The question is this: for whom to produce?
So,
I asked the Jasim to answer me. For whom to produce? How should I answer to this question? Okay, Jasim, let me explain. Okay. For whom to produce? Imagine that we produce, for example, something like, for example, imagine that we produce food for our society. We produce rice, and all the person want to consume rice. Which groups of consumer can consume it? We should distribute rice among persons. And you know that the limitation of factors of production limit us in producing rice. So we have a limited amount of rice, and we confront with a large number of persons who want to have rice for eating. How can we distribute it? One possible answer to this question is that we should distribute the amount of rice that we produce among persons who have money, among persons with higher amount of income. But How about the poorest one in the society? Don't they have eat rice? Is it fair to to limit them? Is it fair for them to deprive about consuming rice? It isn't fair. But one other answer to this question is that we can distribute rice among persons who have a higher amount of income, but the government should intervene and redistribute income by getting tax from richest group of persons and distributed that among poorest one through actually giving subsidies. So we have three important questions: what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. The answer to this important question is the topic of a problem of decision making. So here we want to enter to the important part of my presentation: classification of economic systems according to types of decision making. Over the course of maybe more than 20 centuries of human beings' civilization, societies answer to the problem of decision making in different ways. There are two extreme answers to the problem of decision making. The first answer is command economics. In command economics, we solve we have a solution for those three questions, and the solution is command. The government's command is the solution to three important questions. The government will determine what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. For example, imagine that as a society, we need shoes. We need shoes to wear. We need shoes to walk. Who decides about the amount of shoes that our society should produce? The government. In the experience of former Soviet Union, شوروی سابق, former Soviet Union, the government determined the amount of shoes that society should produce. Our society, for example, needs shoes, and the government decide to allocate all the factors of production to produce shoes. But what kinds of shoes should we have? What size of shoes should we have? The government answer to all of these questions. For example, the government determine the shoes in size 5, 6, or 7 should be produced. And the shoes in color black, green, or for example, maybe brown should be produced. The other question, how to produce shoes? Again, the government answer to this question. The government will force all the manufacturers to produce shoes by leather, and force the other factories who produce leather to give all of their leathers to the producers of shoes. The government organize or coordinate all of these transactions, and this is a kind of coordination mechanism. The government. In Soviet Union, there was a very huge organization. Its name was Gosplan. Gosplan actually made a decision about all kinds of products, all kinds of services that should be produced. For example, in that era, the region that is now called Kazakhstan is in charge of producing wheat or other parts of the former Soviet Union was in charge of producing other things. And the government allocate all of them between people. For example, imagine that they produce shoes. How can we have access to shoes? All the persons should stand in line in front of the factories that produce shoes, and the groups of persons who were first in this line deliver shoes fast. These types of decision making was an experience of Soviet Union. And usually there are some kinds of mistakes in this allocation of resources and goods, but they correct it in the next year. What is actually in this kinds of decision making sacrifice is the freedom of people. People didn't have at that time freedom. Let's go on and talk about the other mechanism. The other mechanism for answering these three questions is market economy. In market economy, market as a mechanism answer to these questions. You know what is the market? Market is a mechanism that all the buyers in one hand and all the sellers in the other hand can interact with each other. This is the decentralized mechanism. It is not centralized like command economies. All the persons enter into market and interact with each other. And finally, the price will set in the market. In this procedure, actually we can say that all the buyers will vote on the products that they desire by the dollars. And they don't prefer to buy something more expensive with the same quality. So the producer actually will force to produce their products efficiently with the minimum cost that is possible for them. Market economics is the other type. Actually, we have the other kinds of mechanism. For example, there are some kinds of mixed mechanism in other countries. I don't know if you know something about Japan. In Japan, we have market economy. Market coordinate all the things. But there is some kinds of other mechanism side by side with the market. This is the obligational contracting or long-term contracting. This mechanism just works in the interaction with large companies, in the large groups of companies. In Japan, there are groups of companies whose name is Keiretsu. Keiretsu is something like holding. In Persian, we say holding, or in English, we say conglomerate. A group of business, a group of companies. For example, I think you hear about Mitsubishi, Mitsui, or Sumitomo, Fuji, other Japanese brand. There aren't just a brand. There are a group of companies. In Mitsubishi, there is a chemical company. There is a petrochemical company. There is an automobile company. There is a steel company. There is a paper company. There is a glass company, and other kinds of company. All of them bring together. They work with each other. They have the ability. They have the option to interact with other companies. For example, with foreign companies. What they prefer to interact with each other. But why? The answer is very simple. In Japanese Keiretsu, for example, the automobile company have the share of the steel company. It is the shareholder of a steel company. And a steel company at the same time is the shareholder of automobile company. So they are, we confront with some kinds of cross shareholding, and it transforms them like a parts of a chain. It is more beneficial for them to interact with each other and have a long-run relationship with each other and within the groups of companies. So we have different kinds of mechanism for decision making. In the left-hand side, that actually was experienced, and to some extent is experienced at the moment in Cuba, in North Korea. There is a common economy, and government decide about what we should produce by comment. In the right-hand side, we have market economies. In this, all the decisions about three important questions are made in market. And there is some kinds of mixed mechanism like obligational contracting. Let's go to the next part and cover the other classification. We should pay attention to both classification, and after that we mix them into each other. The other classification is classification of economic systems according to ownership of capital goods. I told about capital goods. You know that capital goods is something different from money. Sometimes people make a mistake between capital goods and money. For example, when we want to set up a business, set up a company, we need money. And they may say that money is capital. No, money isn't capital good. It is a very maybe critical mistake. Money isn't capital. Here we concentrate on capital goods like machinery, like actually toys, all the things that all the tools that we use them in factories. We are capital good. All of them are capital goods. We need capital goods, but money isn't capital good. Money is just money. Money can transform into capital goods when we, for example, buy capital goods by money. Okay. When we talk about capital goods, it is important to know about the ownership of capital goods. Okay. Again, in the history of human beings, we experienced two types of ownership of capital goods. The first one is the private ownership of capital goods, and the second one is social ownership of capital goods. In countries that the ownership of capital goods is allowed, when it is allowed to be an owner of capital good, these kinds of countries are capitalism. In capitalism, or in capitalistic countries, the ownership of capital goods is allowed by private sector. So private sector can be the owners of capital goods. But in some other countries, it is not allowed to be the owner of capital goods. And all the capital goods should be socially owned, should be owned by the whole society, all the people in the society. So these kinds of companies are socialist. With this classification, we confront with capitalism and socialism. In capitalism, again, I will explain it. In capitalism, we confront with, or we actually permit privately owned companies, but in socialism, we don't permit privately owned companies, and all the companies are state owned, because a state is the representative of citizens. It is impossible for all the persons in the society to manage a company. So actually, they delegate it to the government, and government will be in charge of governing, will be in charge of managing the companies on behalf of the society. These kinds of economies are socialist, or these kinds of economic system are socialism. But socialism have two important parts, and it depends on the political systems. For example, imagine that the government, who is the representative of the citizens, is elected democratic. If the government is elected democratic, we will have the democratic socialism, because the ownership of the capital goods belongs to all the societies, and the government is the representative of all the societies, and this government is democratic. So we have democratic socialism, or social democratic government. But in some countries, we experience another types of socialism. For example, in former Soviet Union, or in China in the era of Mao Zedong, in Maoism. In these types of government, there isn't any kinds of democratic government. So the government was some kinds of dictatorship. It was a dictator. If the government is a dictator, if we confront with a totalitarian government, the socialism will be communism. So communism isn't just an economic system, is a combination of economic system and political system, because it actually determines the types of economic system, and also at the same time the political systems. Communism. So again, we can categorize them in an array. In the right hand side, we will have capitalism, and in the left hand side, we will have socialism, both types, communism and democratic socialism. It isn't difficult for you to locate these two types of economic system. For example, democratic socialism and communism. We can say that communism is on the left-hand side of democratic socialism, but both of them are at the left hand. Okay, we will go to the next slide, but before that, I want to ask you some question about what I told you. Okay. Is it possible for you to answer me? Let me ask Amjad Sabah. I think you got disconnected, maybe. Amjad Sabah, are you here? Can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. I'm with you. I can hear you.
Very good. Amjad Sabah. Can you think about this question, and if it is possible, you can answer me. How do you think about China? What kinds of economic system does China have?
Yes. Just a minute, please. Just a minute.
Okay, no problem. Adnan Aruj, are you here? Can you hear me? Adnan Aruj, is it okay? It's Adnan Aruj, can you hear me? Okay, I think no one is here, and the other one is Amjad Sabah. Amjad, are you ready to answer me?
Yes, please. Just a minute, please.
Okay. I ask you about China. What types of economic system does China have? Let me make it a bit simple. What kinds of economic system did China have in maybe 4 decades ago, in 1970s, at the era of Mao?
Yes, I think the Chinese economy or the political system was communism. Was
Very
for
good.
decades. For decades, yes, for decades.
For decades.
Yes,
And at the
yes.
moment, China isn't actually communism. China at the moment isn't a socialism. It is some kinds of capitalism.
I think it's a mixed system. They called socialism market. I think something like
Yes.
that.
Yes. Yes.
Mixed between capitalism and socialism, between two systems in the economy.
Very good.
Yes, two systems.
Very good. I will. Okay.
Chinese is trying to benefit from the benefits of capitalism and trying to benefits from the socialism system. They mixed from two systems, I think that.
Yes, I think so. Chinese is a country that had socialism
Yes.
for decades.
Okay. Yes.
For decades. But after 1980s, the economic system in China has changed. And China
Yes.
and also Russia, both of them, are in transition economies. In transition economies are those kinds of countries, those kinds of economic systems who is going from socialism to capitalism.
The capitalism,
and
yes.
Is located some places between these two types of economic, but we can realize that it is going toward capitalism.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, China is an in transition economies, and also Russia is too. Russia is the other country that is in transition. Okay, to sum up, we can go to this slide and categorize some important countries. Please look at these slides. We will start with the United States. From the first categorization, we can say that the United States is market economy. And based on the second categorization, we can say that the United States is capitalism. So United States is capitalism, market economy, or is a capitalistic country with market economy. We say to these kinds of economic system, liberal market capitalism or free market capitalism, because they have market as a coordination mechanism, and they have also capitalism because they allowed private ownership of capital goods. So United States is a free market capitalism or liberal market capitalism. Let's go to former Soviet Union. In former Soviet Union, and not in Russia at the moment, in former Soviet Union, we didn't have capitalism. This country was a socialist country with command economy as a coordination mechanism. So, former Soviet Union was a socialism with command economy. When we want to describe a country, when we want to describe an economic system in a country, we should mention both parts of this categorization, both of them, the first categorization and the second one. So former Soviet Union is the socialism with command economy. Do you have a question?
No, not yet. Please continue.
Okay. here. Russia, let me explain about Russia. Russia is moving toward being market economy with private ownership. At the moment in Russia, it is allowed to be an owner of capital goods, be an owner of a companies. So at the moment, Russia is going to be at the moment, it isn't a pure capitalism, but it's going to be a pure capitalism. Let me go to the next economic system, Japan. Japan basically is capitalist because it is possible for private sector to be an owner of factories, companies. For example, I mentioned about I mentioned about Mitsui, Mitsubishi, and other famous companies in Japan. So it is allowed to be an owner of capital goods for private sector. And also, at the same time, the decision in Japan are made by market. So Japan is market economy and capitalism. But there is a narrow difference between Japan and United States. And this difference emerged from obligational contracting between large companies. Actually, Japan has a dual economy. Dual economy means the economy of Japan can be divided in two parts. A traditional parts like supermarket, small retail system, and other things. And the other part is industrial parts of Japan. That is very huge. In industrial parts of Japan, the relationship between companies usually organized via obligational contracting, not via market. They have the chance to use market, but they prefer to use obligational contracting. So Japan isn't free market or liberal market capitalism. It's market capitalism, but isn't free market capitalism because there is obligational contract between industries, and also the government is involved with coordinating decision in industries. The intervention of government is more than US. So we say some other title for Japan. We say Japan as an Asian market capitalism. Japan is market capitalism, but it is Asian market capitalism. It is the one other important types of capitalism. So until now, we mentioned two types of capitalism: liberal market capitalism or free market capitalism like United States, and Asian market capitalism like Japan.
Okay, Doctor, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Can I ask you? Yes, okay. If we want to compare between the two systems, capitalism and socialism, which the system achieves a social justice, like poverty, unemployment. So if we can say the capitalism system is more efficiency, more from the other system. So the problem, I think, in the system or in application systems on the different countries, if we say that the development countries was failed in her economic like socialism, so the development countries like OSIS was more succeed. So who's more efficiency in practice between the two systems, as you think?
I got your question. I can explain it for you.
Yeah.
Okay. I can explain it for you with European countries. Okay.
Yes, I hear you.
Yes, in European countries we have three groups of countries.
Yeah.
The first group that I don't want to talk about them is eastern part of Europe. For example, the countries like Czechoslovakia, Slovenia, Belarus, and so on. and all of them are in transition like Russia. So we don't tell anything about them because we explain about Russia. The second group is countries like Germany, Italy, France, Norway, and other Western and actually northern part of Europe.
Good.
And the third one is United Kingdom.
Good.
United Kingdom at the moment, after Thatcher, after the 70s decade, transformed into liberal market capitalism.
Okay.
And at the moment, United Kingdom has an economic system just like United States. But let me explain about the second group. The second group, in the second group, we have market economy and we have capitalism.
Okay.
So they are market capitalism, but they aren't free market capitalism. But they aren't Asian market capitalism like Japan. They aren't liberal market capitalism like United States or United Kingdom.
Okay.
There are different types of market capitalism. They learn from the experience of eastern part of Europe. They learned from the experience of communism countries, communist countries.
Okay.
And at the moment, they spend a lot for welfare state arrangements. They spend a lot for welfare in their societies. For example, for education system. Education system isn't private there. It's governmental. It's public. I will explain about this in the next presentation. The education system isn't private. Isn't actually, you shouldn't pay a lot for medical service. The amount of taxes is very high. They actually set progressive taxing. It means that if you have more money, you should pay more tax and spend this tax for poorest people in their countries. They provide unemployment insurance for unemployed persons. They provide sick payment for persons who cannot work. They provide parental leave for the parents who get children, and so on. And they provide a minimum standard of living for all the societies.
Okay.
They didn't let anyone to fall to the deep poverty. So we say this country is social market capitalism because they pay attention to their society and they pay attention to the well-being of all the societies. It is impossible to be a very rich person in these kinds of countries, but it isn't. But it is impossible at the same time to be a very poor person.
Yes, yes.
And inequality in these kinds of countries is much less than United States. In United States, it is possible for you to be a billionaire, and at the same time, it is possible for you to be a very poor person, because the United States don't spend a lot of money, a lot of budget for welfare state arrangement, especially when the conservative government be in power.
Yes, yes.
I hope I could answer your question.
Yes, it's clear. Yes, I'm understand what you would say about it. Yes,
Very good. If you have another question, I'm here and I will ask you. I will answer you.
Okay. I think the social system achieves a justice for individuals, guarantee a standard of living and work for all pupils. But on the other hand, we say in economy like USA, I read it, there is about 30 millions of people look, I think they suffer from poverty in the United States because, as you say, the economic system, the rules, private system make people dependent on self, not by economy, not by the government to depend on them. But on the other hand, I think we can say a small rates of unemployment. The system will reach to 3.4% of workers was unemployment. So I think the capitalism, on the other hand, was an efficiency system, and this is maybe lead economies like, as you say, European Union and other countries to be more and more developing and from other countries. Thank you, Doctor.
Very good, very good. I think so. Actually, the countries like the second groups in Europe that I mentioned, like Germany, like Scandinavian countries, they believe in choosing the third way. Actually, they believe in choosing the third way. They tell that there's third way. The first way is the capitalism like United States, is the free market capitalism. The second way is something that is experienced in former Soviet Union, in China in the Mao era, and it wasn't good. It was inefficient. People don't have any motivation to produce more because they produce for government, and the government took all the things that farmers produce, factories produce, and so on, and distribute it equally between all of the persons. So there's no point for me as a farmer to produce more. There's no point for me as a manufacturer to be efficient, because the government took all of the things and distributed it equality. So this is the system actually kill motivation.
Yes.
The European countries believe in the third way. In the third way, they choose the best characteristics of each of these two first systems. They follow market economy because market economy has efficiency, and they follow at the same time justice, equality. They believe in equality. They believe in democracy. Actually, they guarantee equality through real democracy. The quality of democracy is much better in European countries than United States because they guarantee their equality with democracy. As an example, and the finish parts of my presentation, imagine that I am a worker in United States and I work for a company that belongs to Donald Trump. So Donald Trump at the same time is my boss in my company, and at the same time is the imagine that he's a president of our country. It is allowed for me to go to street and criticize Donald Trump as a president of our country, because democracy support me, guarantee me to express my opinion. But it is impossible for me to express my opinion about the way that Donald Trump, as a manager of our company, as a boss of our company, manage this situation of workers. It is impossible for me because Donald Trump can fire me and can say that please resign and go out from my company. It is my company, and I can decide about choosing my workers. And democracy actually in this situation doesn't support me in my workplace. It supports me in the society, but it doesn't support me in my workplace. But imagine the same situation in Europe, in Germany. In Germany, if the president, for example, it is impossible in Germany, but imagine that I am a worker in a company. It is possible for me to criticize the boss of my company, and at the same time, it is possible for me to criticize the government. Democracy support me both in the society as a citizen and in our company as a worker.
Yeah.
It means the deep democracy that exists in European countries. There are social democrat countries. They think about the human well-being, the standard of living of the society, and at the same time, they think about efficiency in markets.
Okay. Can I ask you something, Doctor, please? You are talking about democracy in two systems, capitalism and socialism. So, is democracy useful for development countries that suffer from problems, economic problems like poverty, unemployment, and the big problems, we can say administrative and financial corruption? I think, we think the democracy supporting transparency, accountability in systems like economic development countries, but we can't see that in these systems. What do you think about democracy in socialism system? It is useful or not?
Okay, I got your question.
I think in practice, not in economic theory, in the practice.
Yes, in practice. I answered you in practice, okay? Let me explain for you some important evidence.
Okay.
At first, I should mention that I set up 3 presentations in this course.
Yeah.
This is my first presentation. The second presentation is about government intervention, and the third one is about the criticism about government intervention.
Okay.
I will mention about the actual inefficiencies of democracy in economic systems in the third presentation. But
Great.
at the moment, I will
Great.
answer you. At the
Great,
moment,
great.
I'm going to answer you.
Great.
In the experience of countries in the world, we have 2 different experience. One experience is about Eastern Asian countries like Japan, Malaysia, Indonesia,
Okay.
and other Eastern successful economies in Asia. All of them achieved at the moment to high growth rate. They are successful countries, and they have their economies are very rich, and they have a very actually successful experience, but they aren't democratic deeply. They don't have a deep democracy, and it is a very good example for your question. But at the moment, we have democracy in other countries, other developing countries.
Okay.
Democracy have 2 important function. The first function is that democracy can bring for us transparency, voice, and accountability, and free press, newspapers, and so on. We can use them to criticize the corrupt government. We can use them to criticize the inefficient policies of the government. But at the same time, we can use this democracy actually as a mechanism for redistribute.
Yeah.
For example, if the poor people in a society can mobilize with each other and criticize the government to not spend the budget to to investment and distribute it among poor people through a populist
Yes.
policies, the government will do this, because the government in the democracy we just will be in power for 4 years, and it is important for it to re-elect. All the citizens should should cast a ballot, should vote for a government. So the government will be exposed to short-sightedness. It should choose more inefficient policy to persuade voters to gather more votes, because because the government concerned about re-election.
Yes, yes, yes.
I hope I answered your question.
Okay, yes, it's clear.
Practically, I don't know.
It's clear for me. Thanks, thank you.
But I will explain it in the third presentation.
Yes.
And I will explain the mechanism by which
Excuse me, doctor.
Yeah.
Excuse me, doctor.
Yes.
Your slides is not appear on sharing.
Okay, I can.
Dr. Saeed?
Yes, I can hear you.
Do you hear me?
Can you see my slides?
Hello, Dr. Saeed.
Yes. It's now. Yes, it's now. We can see it now.
Okay. Let me.
Dr. Saeed, do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear
Dr.
you.
Saeed?
Professor Kian?
Dr. Saeed?
I can hear you, but I think you can't hear me.
سامعك دكتور صوتك واضح بالنسبة لنا دكتور صوتك واضح.
وارجع مرة ثانية شو اسمه اوكي.
I think he's problem in his system. I can't hear him.
Mr. Sabah, can you hear me?
For me, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you clearly. Yes.
But I think Mr. Kian couldn't hear me, and I think your
presentation disappeared from the slide.
No, it is here.
Yes, now here. Yes.
Okay, let me go on and finish my presentation.
Okay.
We should talk about China. China is a socialist. Actually, China was a socialist common economy, and at the moment, China is going toward market economy and is going toward capitalism. So China, like former Soviet Union, is a transition economy. And Mexico is another example. The reason that I mentioned Mexico here is that Mexico is the other types of economies in which the government ownership and actually intervention is very considerable. The government intervene in economy deeply. I think that I finished my presentation. I have another slide that is related to the topic that I presented for you. And it mentioned about the goals by which economies are to evaluated. Here you can see 11 goals. One of them is economic growth rate. I think liberal market capitalism is better in achieving these goals, than the social market capitalism and others. And in transition economies like China experience a large economic growth, a very high rate of economic growth during the last decades, because they are going from the socialism to capitalism, and China is a topic of a very is a topic of another session, and I will explain it if you want in the other presentation. The other goal is a standard of living. In the social market capitalism, like European countries, the standard of living is better than liberal market capitalism. The standard of living usually measured by consumption per capita. You should divide the consumption of the country by the population. Allocative efficiency is the other goal. Allocation efficiency means that if your country is good at producing, for example, product A, and if your country isn't good at producing product B, your country should concentrate on production goods A, not B. It means allocative efficiency. You should allocate your factors of production toward the product that you are good at it. A static and dynamic technical efficiency. Technical efficiency means that when your allocative efficiency say that you should produce the product A, you should produce the maximum amount of production that you can use, that you can achieve by your factors of production. If you use your factor of production and you don't produce the maximum amount of production that is possible, you don't have the technical efficiency. Static technical efficiency measure your efficiency at the moment, and dynamic technical efficiency means using the better technology to enhance your capacity of production. Equity or equality is the actually distribution of income equally between citizens, and it is the function of government to redistribute income, because market distribute income and its distribution may be unfair. So government should give tax. Should get tax and give subsidy to the citizens. Full employment is the other goals. It means that all the factors of production, especially your labor force, should be employed, and your employment should be at the minimum amount, which is the NAIRA, or non-inflationary rate of unemployment, the natural unemployment rate. Economic security is the other goals. It means that all the citizens in your country should feel security about the ability to work. It means that they shouldn't be at the risk of firing by the workers. If they fire by the workers, the unemployment insurance should protect them. And similarly, sick persons and others. Price stability is the other that you are, as an economic student, know about it. We shouldn't have the high inflation. Military power, environmental quality, and freedom. Let me finish my presentation here and ask you a question. If you have a question, I can. Sorry, I don't ask you a question. If you have a question, I will answer you because I don't know how much time we have.
Thank you for your presentation. It's very evaluated. This is goals. We can evaluate it by sustainable development indicators. It's better, do you think? This is goals. We can evaluate it as sustainable development indicators. Do you think?
Can you explain what you mean?
As you know, the United States, or for the United Nations, it's have more indicators about sustainable development. Sustainable development.
Yeah.
Yes. This is my questions.
Okay, you know that the economic growth have two consequences. The first one is the pleasant or good consequences.
Yes, I think we have more indicators about education, and the health. We need to add it to these goals. Education and health.
Education and health.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sustainable development have different aspects. It has at least 17 aspects. One of them is health, one of them is education, the other is the less amount of CO2 emission production. Which one do you focus? Do you focus on education system?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
education system and health system is better in European countries because citizens shouldn't pay a lot on them. They just pay a co-payment, a part of the cost of their educational or their health systems. And the other part of they will pay by government.
Good. Thanks, Dr. Saeed. Thanks.
Thank you for your participation, Mr. Sabah. Any other question?
I think we need presentation about Iranian economy. I think this is more useful for us. We know about more sectors about your economy. How do they work? More sectors, something like that. It's useful for us to know about Iranian economy.
Okay. I may present about it sometimes in future. I don't know. But I want to know about your economy more, and I think the structure of your economy to some extent is just like our country, because both Iran and Iraq are oil-dependent countries, and both of our countries depend on oil revenues.
Oil revenues, yes. Oil exporting, yes. Okay.
You have my email address, and if you are interested in continuing this debate, we can be in touch via email.
I love that.
Okay. I don't have your email and the email of this all the participants in this presentation, but if you are interested in continuing this debate about the other countries, please send me an email to have your email and to be in touch with each other.
Oh, inshallah.
Yes.
Thanks, Dr. Saeed. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Take care and stay safe in this situation.
Okay,
coronavirus era. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
This is Kian again. Thank you very much, Dr. Saeed. And let me re-apologize about the missing of the contact in the beginning of the lecture because of the lack of technology, the problem with the technology, and we fixed it, inshallah. I hope you all the best, and I wish to see you again in other lectures and to see you personally. And this is an open invitation to you to visit our university and inshallah to visit Karbala and Najaf also. And you are very welcome, you and your family and all your faculty members and your colleagues. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kian. I hope you be safe, and I appreciate you for coordinating this session. The technical problem is common, no problem. Don't worry about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
شكرا دكتور كيان، الاستضافة الجميلة. شكرا دكتور.
شكرا لكم.
يا مرحبا دكتور، يا مرحبا.